This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where the topics are lightly researched and all we want is Mardi Gras beads. This is episode 20, recorded October 25th, 2020. I'm your host, Brandon Vader, and as always, I'm joined, of course, by Cody Stratman.
Wow.
Hey!
It's because we only have three.
Also known as Psychonitrous. Exactly.
Yeah.
Down below me, Colton Roper,
Hello.
also known as Seeker4761.
How's it going, guys?
And I could say the thing from
What?
Overwatch, but that's Seeker's thing.
One of these days, it will be said. Maybe it'll be posted someday. Brandon,
Let's just say
take a look
it was
at this
an
Discord.
insult. Yeah, it was an
It's probably the
insult.
best insult I've ever had to a hater in Overwatch. So you
Yeah.
have to check it out one of these
The
days.
amount of times he did something to somebody's family member.
Oh.
They were making fun of my name because it had numbers in it. So I made a very crass comment about this probably 10-year-old's maternal person. So I'll let the viewers figure out, or viewers, listeners, whatever, about what it actually was said.
So,
But it's the best burn I've ever had and probably ever will. So wasted it.
I
Jeez.
kind of wanted to change the topic and format this week. So rather than doing our traditional 3 or 4 topics, we're kind of doing a free-form conversation about a singular topic. And this week, I know, it's terrible changing things up. It won't be
scares
the
me.
change for all of the episodes, just maybe every 10.
10th?
Yeah, maybe every 10.
I like
We'll
that.
see.
Every 10th episode, since we are on episode 20.
Yep.
Now we have 2 traditions we have to keep going because we're
Yeah.
only 4 episodes away from being allowed to drink
God.
again. So
Being allowed to drink.
being
okay.
allowed to drink again, yes.
Yep.
Because I haven't supposed to have been drinking this entire time.
It's in your contract, Brandon. Come on, man.
It's Kool-Aid.
I don't read those things.
Just sign it.
Just
Just sign away your life. Just like
sign it, make it happen.
signing away your EULAs and all that. Same basic concept.
But anyway, this week, we've decided that we're going to, or by we, I mean, I chose the topic for this week, and it's going to be privacy in the world that we live in, and just how it's impacting us, the pros and cons, or maybe more of why we want it and potentially what is keeping us from getting privacy. Now, this has been...
The internet.
Yeah, this has been more of a modern issue. Before, if somebody wanted to gain information about you, they had to be physically present, or at least present near you with one of those fancy microphone things that you see on spy movies, rather than getting data from your cellular companies, from your ISPs, your banks, and henceforth.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, since we already mentioned the internet, which is obviously the biggest detractor of potential privacy for the world, I would say right now. Because originally the internet was designed to share information between scientists and actually people who know each other in real life, kind of what you mentioned earlier there, Cody. And because of that fact, it's kind of interesting that privacy itself was not actually a core function of the original internet, because well,
Yeah, you
everyone
can't share
was supposed
too
to know
much.
each other. You can't share data privately among scientists. At least it's not what you're supposed to do with a healthy scientific community. So it's kind of an interesting core idea, because obviously today with social media and everything else is online anyways, it's interesting how the very concept of privacy was basically a copped on add-on to the concept of the internet in itself.
No, that's a very interesting take on it, to kind of bring things back. I mean, yeah, it was all about sharing with a small group of people, and it was 2 universities, I believe, at first, before they even had the government linked in. Is that
Was it MIT and Stanford or something like that, or Cal? I can't. I thought MIT was one of them, but I might be completely wrong. If only there was some sort of, again, worldwide
vast information
World
network.
Wide webs.
web of information that's freely shared, we might be able to look it up, but alas, that has not been invented yet. I think I've made that joke like 3 times on the podcast, so someday I'll come up with new material.
That's fine.
At this point, it's just a trope. It's okay.
Fact is what it is.
So this
Well,
is
oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say that this has really been an issue for the mainstream populace in the last 20 years, I would say. And potentially maybe 1995 onward. And that's, it wasn't too long ago that when you used a credit card, well, first of all, that credit cards weren't as common. Remember the days where you actually had to pay cash if you were going to buy like McDonald's or something. That wasn't
That must
that
be an
long
old
ago.
person thing.
Like that was 2004 when
I
they
actually
made that
remember-
change.
I remember you used to also be able to pay by check at fast food locations.
For a little while. Yeah.
I've literally written 1 check in my entire life. So again,
You lucky
I
bastard.
don't understand that concept. I know, I've never had a reason to because
You've only had to use Schrodinger's money once.
exactly. I used other money that represents monetary value instead of other paper instead of another piece of paper that represents a piece of paper of monetary value. So, God, money is a weird ass concept. Anyways, go on.
Yeah,
What,
it
you
is.
don't want to trade like 10 hours of your life directly to one person or like, 20 berries for whatever?
It'd be hard for me being in Arizona. There's not really our berry growing season is very short. So, unfortunately, it'd probably be an economic depression down here if berries were the national currency. I'm just
That would
That's
actually
privacy related,
be
I'm sure.
inflation. Yeah.
Oh, he's putting on his noise canceling headphones.
Oh, here
It's
we
like,
go.
nope, don't
I
even wanna deal
liked
with
the
this crap.
bubble effect that his
No.
headphones had.
It I when I move my computer and my desk, I now have my Bluetooth on the other side of my computer, and the little receivers in this apparently don't like being that far away from the Bluetooth. So
Nah, too much noise.
yeah, so you guys were like cutting in and out.
So
So you were
I'd
just
have to-
smiling and nodding and like, yep, great idea.
No,
good point.
That's why if anyone was watching the video, like even just shifting over about 6 inches, I was able to hear you guys. But as soon as I'd try and get back to a comfortable
it's the modern day,
position,
like, dog effect when dogs hear a strange sound and they have to kind of like tune with their heads and go, It's the human Bluetooth
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah, Brandon was moving to his
Just
right, so
get
he was
closer.
really interested in what we were having to say.
What is it? Right brain. So he was thinking creatively about what we were saying.
Apparently.
yeah, sure.
Well, it might be an interesting segue into, I guess, connections. If you're going with privacy, the biggest thing in probably the last 10 years in regarding to 10, 15 years is, it's 2 things. It's social media and it's also the Internet of Things. It's kind of interesting with privacy because I think I read somewhere in the very light research I did, like 96% of Americans are for privacy, like utmost privacy, which, I mean, makes sense. It's the way we've always been. And yet, with the advent of social media, it's becoming the norm to essentially pay for these free services with your data. I would go along the
Yep.
fact of like, look at our Facebook page for TWIL. It's constantly reminding me that our profile is only 70% complete or whatever the fuck number. because it's trying to get more information out of us, a phone number or an actual location, which we don't have, obviously. But it's interesting how.
Well, if you average all of our locations, I think we're in,
Canada.
Oregon? No, Canada? Okay, we are in Canada.
I'd say like,
Or maybe Washington. Washington?
well,
Yeah,
I'll put
just-
like
That's our new location.
Wacoma,
our headquarters.
Washington, or or Oregon,
Tacoma.
wherever the hell it is. Tacoma, not Wacoma. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Wacoma, it's fake.
Wacoma.
But it's interesting again in terms of if you want to be a part of, well, what's happening, you have to essentially you have to be willing to give up part of your data to this company that says they're going to be responsible with it. But as we know, in like 2018 with the Cambridge Analytica shit with Facebook, that's not really possible.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Here's what something that happened in the early 2000s, the aughts, I guess is what you would call them. So
The naughties.
The first of
it is. It is called the naughties.
why is it called the naughties?
Because a 0 is a naught.
Okay.
Naughties.
All right.
Because
all right.
millennial humor is
in
all
the
we
naughties.
have left.
All right. So before, when the internet was younger, we used to go to a variety of different websites to more people. Well, I wouldn't say more people, but there were a lot of people that had their own website. So rather than having a Facebook profile, you had your website that was literally your domain. You had control over it. So the phrase, "this is in my domain," yeah, that was that. So if it was a privacy issue, it was up to you. Nobody was scouring your information except for maybe a search engine that was getting in.
Alta Vista.
Oh, yeah. Lycos.
Yep. Yahoo.
Netscape. It's the only one I ever used back then was Netscape.
That was a search engine? I thought that was just a
Oh,
browser.
I was thinking browser.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I always used Lycos because it had the dog.
Ask Jeeves.
Safari.
I remember school forcing us to use Ask Jeeves, and it
What?
sucked. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Because they didn't hoard it as much of your data? That's interesting.
It's because
No,
they had that
Google
awesome
wasn't a
those
thing
awesome
yet.
Well,
commercials
no,
back then.
Google was
so.
like, it had one bar, and it was like type 120 words or less or something in that bar, and that's all it was. I remember there's a guy that I worked with that was way more into technology at the time than I was, and I remember him going, "No, you got to use Google. It'll be the next big thing." I'm like, wait, what about Yahoo? Where I used Alta Vista as well for most of my stuff. It's like, no, you got to use this Google thing. Like, all right, it's a strange word, but whatever. So I wanted to kind of segue this into one of the potentially positive aspects of losing your privacy, and that is ads that are actually more relevant to you. Now, as much as it's creepy and it's like you have Google staring in and going, "Hey, I noticed that you're drinking this kind of milk. However, would you like some chocolate to go with that? How about some cookies? I notice you don't have any cookies. Here's some cookies. You could buy them on Amazon. He's my friend next door." Like, that's what I meant the other day when I was asking if Google was a person, to show the creepy side of it. Like, just this Google guy that's walking around behind you going, "Hey, I noticed this, so how about that? I see that you like electronic gadgets. How about some motors for your drone?" On the other hand,
You've been looking a lot at batteries. Do you need a soldering iron?
See, I have not had that experience. Like, whenever I'm actually searching for
Really?
a product, let me clarify. Whenever I'm
He's better
searching
with
for a
security.
product, I end up purchasing a product, and then I still get, like, another week after I get ads about the product I've already purchased. And I'm like, that's not a very good algorithm. And maybe my ad profile is just not very good for Google.
Or
But I've also had it where I swear I've just said something and then I saw an ad for it like the same day. So
okay,
Yeah.
I tracked that down, and I believe that is the Facebook app on your phone.
I can see that.
So I do not use that, and it's the one thing that. So my coworker and I, we had this happen the other day where he was talking about like Disney World or something, and he kept getting ads for it. I'm like, all right, I got to try this, because like just the amount of permissions that the Facebook app uses, and like most people,
ton.
yeah, most people are like, you know what, I'll do this. And for me, it's like, nope, I'm going to the Facebook website. I am not using their actual app on my phone. And it seems to be that microphone search, because when you give Facebook permission to your microphone, you think, oh, okay, I'll use it for maybe Facebook Messenger, or maybe to update my status with my speaking to it while I'm driving. Be like, hey guys, I'm driving to the store, check this out.
Just
new
like-
wall post. Oh, you don't like that store. I see how it is.
Well, and have you noticed how now they're pushing Alexa into the cars?
No, I didn't notice that.
So you can get a Alexa Auto, which gives you Alexa in your car.
So is
There's
this part
now
of Android
radios.
Auto, or is this like a new just Amazon thing?
It is a basically Amazon speaker that hooks in through FM and has Bluetooth to your phone for data and music playback.
Huh. That's
But
Weird
it's so
dongle
that
to
you
put
can
into your
go,
car, huh?
Yeah. But you can now buy third-party stereos from like Pioneer and JVC and companies like that have Android or Alexa in them. And there are now cars coming out that have Alexa built into the car.
oh god. So those like meetings that happen
Worse.
in the middle of the night between people that are like, all right, did you get the package? Like, yeah. Wait, do you have Alexa Auto in your car? No.
Amazon Prime.
Like, meeting disbanded. I mean, that's intriguing and frightening too at the same time, because that information from Alexa has already been subpoenaed. Like that has been used in court when people. Now, granted, the article that I read said that the person requested that, but it means that this is again always listening to you. So everything that you're saying
Well, it's
is being
interesting
recorded.
Because I remember when the Xbox or the Xbox One came out, and I think it
yep.
was the one, and that was that whole controversy with the
Like
it's
iToy
always
or
listening. No, it was,
Oh,
it
yeah,
was, it was
because you
just,
could use your voice to control it.
yeah, to turn the damn thing on, which means it always has to be on, and that was a huge
Yeah, it's like that Hey Google
a
thing.
huge privacy concern for, obviously you're essentially letting Microsoft listen to you all the time. Not that it has any use for it, but I remember the controversy of it, and yet
Bing.
well
Your
now,
data
but back
is-
then Bing wasn't really a thing
Yeah.
yet.
Your data is worth a ton. I mean, this was part of. We're gonna try not go too political, but we're gonna skirt on the edge of politicalness. So,
Fuck it, go for it.
Part of Andrew Yang's whole scheme in order to make money, and his not scheme, but his UBI, Universal Basic Income, is to have each person be paid for the data that they're giving up. Now, I had several questions with that as to why each company would be willing to relinquish that, but then also if you were forced to give that up. But it also proves that data is worth a considerable amount of money.
Well, that's kind of the interesting thing. I read, I think it was a Stanford article or journal entry, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Google Scholar, ironically. It has one place for everything. But they said that big tech companies, and in the future also, they're not going to trade in in dollars or stocks. They're going to trade in data, which at this point they are. They're trading in big data. It's why Facebook, it's why every one of these tech companies built a always listening device, because that data can be aggregated into your profile to give a specific, a unique ad that's tailored for the personalized experience, which ironically, a lot of people do enjoy. They like the personalized experience when it comes to tech. But do they like the personalized experience of an ad, which is another issue, because our generation is actually it's in terms of like being susceptible to ads, like just general ads. We're the least susceptible generation to like ads on television or ads everywhere, because they're just bombarding us constantly.
Yeah, so we know, like, okay, put that out. Ignore the next 30 seconds.
Yep.
That's what our minds tell us to do.
Right, exactly.
Please don't ignore the next 30 seconds of the podcast.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? I was making a good point, damn it. But no, because of the targeted ads, now and then obviously you add in the fact that all these targeted ads are now being essentially, what's the term? What's the term for an ad that's like built into a news article or something, or an ad that's looking like a news article? Fucking South Park did a whole fucking
inline.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Advertisement.
So now, like, the ad agencies and all these tech companies are having
sponsored content.
That's what it is. Sponsored content.
Oh yeah,
like
where you see
Facebook.
it and it's like, oh, this is a news article. No, it's not. It's actually an advertisement piece that looks exactly like a news article.
And in the social media, it's the same thing with Instagram, Snapchat, and all these companies are able to create, and it's not really privacy related, but kind of is. All these companies are able to create a post that looks just like your regular post that you would see, but it's obviously not. It's sponsored. It's money. It's an economic transaction at that point. And you combine all that with the personalized ads, or if you just search something, you'll start seeing relevant stuff at that point. That's, I would say, frustrating, honestly.
Yeah.
It kind of like, it causes a weird echo chamber in terms of purchases, if you ask me.
Well,
which, not that that's a huge deal, but it changes the way your mind searches for items, I would say, if you're being targeted for certain items that you casually said in speaking. I don't know.
And it's not just an issue with ads, too. It's an issue with your groups, like Facebook itself, with YouTube. Those platforms absolutely create an echo chamber where you are going to be visiting more content because they think you want to like it. Like, the whole point of YouTube is to keep the user on YouTube as long as possible. Same with
that
Facebook.
algorithm is
fucking
fucking
good at it.
dastardly.
Yeah, so it's really, in the next, like, 10, 20 years, we need to be aware of how we're being manipulated. That's going to be so important. That should be taught in schools. That should be a required portion of your education. And I don't know if this is happening now. I hope so, but
It's an interesting thing you bring up, because I was going to kind of mention, like, privacy and government, like the laws that are supposed to protect, at least in this country.
Oh, I thought you were going to go a different way with that.
No. The laws that are supposed to protect the consumer and people in general are antiquated compared to compared to the rate that technology itself is exploding. And I would argue it's probably the same with how people are taught and how the educational system is handling it. Because, I mean, within our own generation, the computer and the internet has completely, it's the fourth revolution, economic revolution. It's completely changed how we think at this point.
Yeah. We have to be online, or we essentially don't live, really.
Yeah. Like I'll go with banking. My grandparents did not bank online. They were relatively tech savvy for being old, but they refused to bank online. Parents, they do, but it's not a huge deal, and yet that's like 95% of how I bank. I'm always.
Oh yeah.
I live like literally 4 minutes away from a bank, and I'd rather just check it on my phone.
Yep. The only time I visit,
Or do the picture deposit. Or,
Oh, that's goddamn! I could literally never leave my house to do anything anymore.
so due to rent,
Terribly amazing.
I still have to. Every month, I go to my bank. I withdraw cash. I go to the Bank of Evil, which is Wells Fargo, by the way. I'll just be blunt about that.
That's
And
a corporation, not a bank. Sorry.
Either way, I give money to my landlord
Evil.
who banks at the Bank of Evil, and I have to every month I have to do that because otherwise I have to pay $35 for a wire transfer to the other bank. I could do. There's another way of doing it with bill pay, but bill pay means I would still have to incur a monthly charge of $5. And I don't want a $5 a month charge just to use bill pay. I don't want a monthly charge, so I'll go to each bank every single month to deal with that. So I am antiquated in that system.
So that actually brings me to another key concept when it comes to privacy. Convenience versus privacy. Obviously, in your case, that's probably the big question that hopefully people are thinking about, which unfortunately I don't know if they are. They see, like, I'll use a password manager as an example. I used to have I still have a shitload of passwords, unique passwords, every single website, and I unfortunately had them, like, some of them written down because I could not remember them for the fucking life of me. And it's fine. And I was starting to put them, like, let them go to, like, Opera or Google and letting them save using that whole thing, which in itself is not very secure, but it was convenient. So in that case, I traded a little bit of my privacy and my security for, at that time, there was many minutes of my day were potentially saved, which adds up over a year. And then I discovered a password manager, and now I have them all in one place that's saved with one password, which again is secure-ish, but it's also incredibly dangerous because obviously your entire life, your banking, your bill pay, everything is now in one location, and you're essentially trusting another company to hopefully have built a product that is secure, which obviously from an economic standpoint, if they build a product that is a sieve for data, they're not going to make any money. But you still are taking that risk. 186 million Americans lost their data because of that, or had it stolen from Equifax, which we forgot about that shit, and it was only 2 years ago. So,
yeah,
in the before times.
Brandon, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, and I mean that's why you have to look at, like, the software you use and try and understand, like, the software and services you use, where do they make their money? That's the big question. If it's a free service, you're their money source. And not because you're paying them, because they're turning around and selling your data. And a lot of people just don't understand that. They're like, oh, it's free. I'm just going to use it. It's free. It's fantastic. It's free.
Like, that's not capitalism, baby.
Yeah. How are they making their money then?
Yeah, it's not altruistic company that's doing that. Facebook isn't going, hey, let's provide this for everyone to just be joyful and communicate. Because for one thing, Facebook brings no joy. It only takes it.
Yeah.
Hot take by Cody. Well, going with the software idea, like, obviously if a corporation or true business or software company or whatever actually makes an app like that, program, whatever you want to call it, yeah, you definitely have to think about that. But then you add in stuff like, what about open source programming, which from a which obviously it's designed, open source in a perfect world is designed to give it to the public, let them figure out the bugs, make it more secure, blah blah blah, and so forth. I mean, again, that's something you have to consider when you're dealing with possibly giving data to any software or
I guess you have to figure, is the knowledge base of the entire community that is willing to fix the issue smarter than the knowledge base of people who want to maliciously exploit it.
Or is that data even worth the effort to do it? I mean, with encryption at, what is it, 256 is starting to become, maybe not a standard, but it's more than acceptable for a, 256 or 512 even.
More available.
Yeah, it's more acceptable from a consumer level. Obviously, the problem with any of this data that you're willing to give out is obviously the human problem. That's what a lot of these hackers will try to attack. They won't attack the actual encryption between the two computers, because 256 encryption is like brute forcing it at 2.5 million years or something stupid like that.
Yeah, even if
maybe
your
more.
computer gets faster, it's not getting it faster
and
at the rate that encryption is.
Yeah, and until quantum computers possibly become a thing, it's there's no way to brute force it. So obviously, it goes back to what Cody was saying. People themselves need to be trained and at least be aware of how their data can be accessed by a company, who they're giving it to, how it can be essentially stolen right out from under you, and you might never know. I mean, with all the data breaches from the past 5 years, there's a good chance our data between the three of us has been stolen and we didn't know about, or at least sold to someone else, possibly for nefarious reasons. We don't know.
No, absolutely. Between Equifax, probably, I think it was, 10 years ago? Steam, actually. It was more like
I
5.
got hit by Equifax.
Yeah,
I
Steam.
got hit by Steam, and I got hit by EA last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I've been breached at least 3 times.
And then
But
you think of after hours. Anyways. And something that's kind of interesting and it might be a generational thing is, I mean, we still, on this podcast, we still care about privacy. I think we do. And we still consider privacy when it comes to decisions that are made or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, with all the essentially the big companies being sieves for your information, it starts to become numb. And then, like, even though we just said, our data got stolen, between the three of us, our data was stolen.
So what do you do about it?
Well, what do you do at this point?
Well, you're reliant on the government to protect you, which they have a track record of not doing. A matter of fact, this is what I want to bring up a little bit, is they have a track record of actually doing the opposite when it comes to your privacy. And they're probably the most malicious anti-privacy people out there. So between that, it's really, you go through, see, what accounts you have that have been breached, change those passwords, maybe not do business. Well, Equifax, you don't really have an option to get away from Equifax.
You're required to have a credit score to do anything in this fucking world that we have.
So you're in that essence, you do become numb to it. And
like, I'll use an example of my own. Like, I'm thinking I am going to get the Oculus Quest 2, the VR that has been out for like a week. It's pretty awesome, by the way. It's going to be a review when I get it. But the thing between, I mean, you and I, Cody and I have actually discussed the problem of essentially logging into it using your Facebook account. And I've caught myself even like, I don't care. They already have everything.
Yeah.
What could they possibly take at this point? So that's kind of interesting. I just thought about that. The futility possibly of it all at this point with the technology growing so fast and the economic changes of the world essentially requiring you to be on the internet to be successful in any way. Does it even make sense to really worry about it at this point, at least for our generation?
And so I got off on a quick side tangent because I wanted to mention to our listeners the website haveibeenpwned.com.
I love that
is an
fucking
amazing
website.
place.
Can you spell it, please?
Yeah. Have I been Papa Whiskey Nancy Echo David.com.
PWND. For
Yep.
those
Yeah,
that don't
PWNED.
speak. Oh,
And
PWNED.
what does that site do there, Brandon?
So you can type your email address in there, and it will tell you if that email address is associated with any data breaches. And I actually just found out that Roll20 had a breach back in December 2018. So
jeez.
all of us
Yep.
on this show, including some of our guests that we've had in the past, have been affected by that data breach
Not Roll20.
because of Mjolnir. Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks,
for
Charlie.
telling us that's the site we were going to do D&D on.
Oh, the beta nerds.
I
think that website will also do passwords, won't it? Based on has your password been part of?
Let's see.
I swear it has, because I think I've checked one of my passwords that I've used before, and it was, of course, pwned and used, so I never use that password anymore. Very unlikely there's any real danger to it, but it's an unnecessary risk now that I have the information I need to make an informed decision. Yeah, I think it got like 30 million or 50 million used passwords from like Russian hackers or something stupid like that. That was like a 2019 thing. And yeah, I think like 3 or 4 of my passwords have been pwned before, so those got changed real quick.
And then they had Heartbleed. What was that? 2014.
Yeah.
So
SQL Heartbleed.
that was bad because it wasn't even like people being actively trying to breach servers. It was basically a memory leak that was just leaking that information passively.
Yeah, a core aspect of how processors work, I think. Is that Heartbleed, or am I thinking of Spectre?
No. That's Spectre and
Okay.
Meltdown.
Which one's Heartbleed then?
That's to do with prefetch. Heartbleed is the SQL memory
Oh,
leak.
yeah, that one.
Yeah,
So
that was pretty much change everything that weekend.
It's another thing. If the actual hardware that you're using can be attacked, it's futile at this point.
And
I would argue, at least with the way it currently is, there's not a whole lot you can really do besides even best practices. You're still at least at risk of getting it lost or stolen or sold or used against you or for you. Who knows?
potentially fake accounts.
And I mean, here's
just fake accounts to real accounts.
I mean, here's the thing. I've always, like, when I start having a client that, you know, after they get a virus on their computer or something, they immediately are like, oh my God, do I need to change my credit card numbers, and do I need to do this, and do I need to do that? It's like, okay, you need to monitor that stuff, yes, because if you've been making transactions and online purchases and stuff with that virus there's a chance it could have it. But when they really just start spiraling and they're like, oh my God, I mean, what I just have to tell them to kind of bring them back is like, look, if somebody really wants your data that bad, it's gonna be theirs. If it's out there, if someone wants it, somebody will find a way to get it. And even you know, going, I'm not going to have internet on this computer. This computer is going to be where I do QuickBooks, and it's never going to be online. And you have a QuickBooks computer. That's all it does. Okay, somebody could walk into your house and steal it and then have all that information. Or if they really want to be stealthy, there are these new cables that look like normal USB cables. That, hey, guess what? Well, now rather than charging your phone on your nightstand with that cable, somebody sneaks in, puts this other cable in it, wirelessly transmits data back to, you know, a receiver a little ways away. Or just, you know, keyboards emit massive amounts of electrical discharge just by connecting the different circuits on the board. You can actually use a oh, where the hell did I put mine? One of the software-defined radios on certain, uh, especially 2.4 gigahertz keyboards, like wireless keyboards.
Yeah.
You can use software-defined radio to just do a direct keylogger of anyone within about 100 feet of you.
That is a free white hat hacking tip from the Tech Pirate. So don't do that unless you're doing a network test or.
So I recommend
or just don't do it.
people who have more interest in this also follow Level 1 Techs.
Hack
Oh,
5.
Yeah, and Hack 5.
And Hack 5.
Hack 5. That is to me that is the top information about like hacking and leaks and shit.
Okay. So another really good source, if you like podcasts, and especially ones that are maybe a little higher production value,
Nah, you don't need that.
somewhat unlike us.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Darknet Diaries. Fantastic. And it's all true stories of like different exploits, different hacks. He's had some of the actual hackers on doing interviews, some of the people in the software security division that, responded to these hacks in different ways. He's had security analysts. Amazing podcast, and it's highly educational, highly entertaining.
I like that. Entertainable.
It's edutainable.
Edutainable.
God, I do not like that word.
That's a word now.
I like the other word, not edu. Nah.
So
But-
I actually remember a conversation I had with you guys when we worked at Internet Colorado in Gunnison about data privacy. And I remember, I think it was you, Brandon, who said basically said the thing. If somebody wants to take your data, they will get it. And the only way to keep it safe is to not put it anywhere outside of you, really. But maybe we can kind of end on something else that's interesting, is emerging technologies.
And before we go into the end times here, I did want to bring up another part of this that I only barely touched on, which is the government and privacy. So, for instance, you've got, this has been in the news lately, Huawei or however you pronounce that name.
Huawei.
Basically,
Wawa.
unfortunately, Chinese entities have a track record of being puppets to the government of China. However, Cisco, for a while, at our governments, the United States, has had basically man-in-the-middle attacks engineered into each of their routers that they sent out. So we're not at all, clean
Any
on
better.
this. Yeah, either. It's basically each government, like when you consider
Governments love backdoors. They always request these companies create a backdoor only for them to be used in only the most extreme circumstances.
Yeah, so basically each person is at the losing end of this because they've got, hackers trying to get their information. Then they've got the government then also trying to chew holes through whatever protections they have. Say, hey, I want to use a VPN. I want to use encryption to keep my data secure. Unfortunately, then in the government's eyes, they're going, hey, we've got these threats that we want to protect you from. And in order to see those threats, we need to be able to have access to all of this. So, yeah, one of the scariest things, not really scary, but it's just irritating and concerning to me, is when I go through, when I'm traveling internationally, and then more so when I'm coming back into this country, I've heard horror stories of them going, all right, we need you to unlock your phone, to everything just to go through it for whatever. And it just makes people suspicious. It makes people who have nothing to hide anyway if somebody's going to go into your house and go, I want to investigate your house, you're going to go, oh, crap, what do I need to do to protect myself here?
Do I
Yeah,
have anything that I maybe shouldn't have?
Yeah, and to be clear, if you're coming into this country, you are not required to unlock your phone unless you were presented with a warrant.
Yep.
That is
And
you
also,
are not required. So regardless of what you're told,
this is important. Do not use the fingerprint unlock. Use a passcode.
Yep.
Because they can ask you to fingerprint unlock it. They cannot.
Same with Face ID.
Yeah, they cannot ask you to give up a password.
and it's
Or a PIN number.
that's just another example of the fucking
Or
law.
a pattern.
They
not-
can, they can, however, confiscate your device.
Yep.
Yeah, they can do that, but
So always be running updated versions. Always be,
Yeah, so
because if you're running an older version of Android or iOS, they have tools to be able to get into it.
it's one of the reasons
Without
they keep
needing your password.
updating these operating systems. It's not just for
To
the
annoy you.
nefarious
New
foreign
features.
hackers. It's a security issue, and these companies can lose billions of dollars if they let their customers' data, well, go to anyone but them. It's kind of a weird problem.
yeah, true. Google's concerned about Android to the extent that nobody else, gets your
Can have it.
information
For free.
Yeah,
I'm sure
exactly.
they're willing to sell
So-
it since data is the currency.
Yeah. So it's, again, with Apple. Apple's not being altruistic about your data. Apple's just trying to protect their image and have that valuable information to themselves until they deem it is valuable for something else. So just to keep that in mind when you're using cloud storage, is cloud storage can also be subpoenaed, and they will give access to that willingly. So I think, in a way, this intrusion into privacy makes people more dishonest. So here's something I was thinking about earlier this week as we were gearing up for this subject. When you have to be careful when you post something on Facebook, because future employers might look at it, and they might look at whatever that piece of information is in a vacuum. So if you've ever had any experience with editing, you know that one thing that you've said, taken out of context, with only that excerpt from 10 years ago, could absolutely incriminate you for something that you didn't mean to do, something you didn't mean to portray, something you didn't mean to say.
Something you didn't even do.
Exactly. It's why they say, when you talk to the police, it's why they say you have the right to remain silent. However, when it comes to your data, because your data, you pretty much have to use your data to exist in this world, you may have the right to remain silent in this aspect, but you can't really remain silent.
You may not have the ability to silence all sources.
It's almost like, in some cases, you're guilty until proven innocent, because you post something, whatever, you post something in jest or with context, and 15 years down the road, you don't remember why you posted that, because who remembers what they posted 15 years ago? But at that point, now you have to prove, or you're essentially have to prove to an employer or whoever that, no, there wasn't bad, and now you're essentially guilty until proven innocent in that case. And that's a whole nother aspect of privacy that they really need to be teaching. And I think they're starting to, at least maybe not in school, but I think some kids are starting to understand at least the basic concept of, like, anything you post will always be there, even if you delete it. It can be found. It's harder, but it still can be found.
There's another podcast that I listen to. I know, I'm cheating on my own podcast, but in the Bangkok podcast, the host of that his son's 3-4 years old, and he tells his son, like, instills on him, if you put something on the internet, it is there forever, and just pretend the person that you never wanted to see that or say that to is going to see that. Like, that is the internet.
I feel that way every time we do a podcast episode.
Yeah.
Like, damn it,
See
it's on
my
the internet
dirty
forever.
dishes
Son of a
or
bitch.
whatever.
Hence my
I was going to say, Brendan,
hidden background.
That's very private. That's a very privacy-conscious thing to do, because for all we know, you're in the bathroom. But we'll never know. He's in the bathroom, folks. Anyways.
Don't look at me!
So I guess the question is there any tech or software or anything out there that can, in the future, coming on the pipeline or whatever, even theoretical, that is truly can protect you?
VPNs exist right now, so basically the best course is to have a VPN with no logging. Therefore, if an entity has access and the political sway to request information from them, they can't give anything because they don't log anything. So that's
you got to be careful when you see those ads for like PIA, or not that PIA does this, PIA or TunnelBear or any of those relatively cheap VPNs. You always got to do a little research behind and see if they actually log the data that goes through their servers. Yep. And you always, unfortunately, you do have to keep on top of that. And that is probably the biggest, I guess, I would say it's a pretty important bit of information to give anybody who's interested, is you always have to be vigilant, because there's a lot of money in it. You are more valuable. Your data is more valuable than you as a person.
Yeah, not just your money. It can have real life ramifications. Again, anything that you've ever said out of context.
Yep. If you're ever applying for something that needs security clearance,
they will look.
Like, even working, so when I worked with United, I had to go through a full background check to get a SIDA badge so that I could be out on the ramp. And it was a full background check with security details, financial details. I transposed one number in an address that was at that point like 6 years old, and it came back as being incorrect.
For shame, what are you trying to do?
You
yes,
bastard.
and it's like, and it was because it was an obvious transposal. Like, it didn't
just what they wanted you
deny
to think.
Me
wanted them to think.
Getting the ID, but they were just like, this did come back flagged. Is this correct? And it's like, oh, yeah, that's what it was. But another thing that would help privacy-wise, so speaking of keeping logs and internet, DNS servers. If you are using the DNS servers that are provided to you by CenturyLink, by AT&T, by Spectrum, or whoever your internet provider is, they're keeping logs. Those logs are then being sold. And even though theoretically there's no, oh yes, Brandon F. Vader here at this location searched for this, or got a name resolution for this, there's still enough other corroborating sources that they can grab from to then go, yes, this is the Brandon Vader that lives at this location, that uses this internet, that then was searching for all of this.
Oh yeah, it's why any bit of data you put on anything, or what you search, or what websites you go to, it may be, again, it's all out of context again, but it all could be aggregated into a full profile of who you are, of your purchase history, of they can find out your sexual preference. They can, there's a story that was pretty popular.
Yeah.
They do that. There's a pretty, I think there was a story. What was it, like 4 years ago, 3 years ago? I think a young girl was shopping for things on Target's website, and it had to do with kind of like baby clothes, and she was a teenager at the time, and I think they ended up sending like those coupons that these companies will send to an email address, which was to the father. So I believe the father found out that his teenage daughter was pregnant due to the fact that she was just searching randomly at a Target store. She had no concept of how that could come back to possibly, change her life in whatever reason. I mean, it's a horror story, but unfortunately that is the type of thing that can happen. And that wasn't even a nefarious thing that happened.
Yep.
That's just what happens. And that's kind of the world we live in now. So you always have to be, you always have to be vigilant and realize, again, anything you do online can always come back to
that being
bite you in
said,
the ass in some way.
Yeah, don't make all of your decisions based off of fear, because that is an
That's
easy
also
way
true.
to get manipulated too. That's how
Fear is the mind killer.
God, yeah. So if anything is ever trying to scare you into doing it, don't do it. Like the banner ads, whatever. Speaking of security, that's the biggest manipulator. That's the biggest thing that I can say to users that are like, how do I know if this is safe to click on or whatever? It's like, is it trying to manipulate you through fear to click on it? Then don't. So same thing applies to us. Just try to be
smart,
informed, research if you can. Just do a little bit of Googling about whatever it is. Like even
give your data to that company. They already have it. Who cares? Don't do that, or do it. Who knows? I'm not advocating either way at this point, because we live in the worst timeline, and it's just a hellscape. And
go Alta Vista.
2020 is amazing.
So you know where?
Oh yes,
where all
DuckDuckGo.
of the...
That's another good tip, actually.
Yeah. So I just got to thinking, and I think I know where we started eroding our own privacy.
9/11.
Well, I mean, that's a major one, but even before
1996 Telecommunications Act. It's been every administration since that time.
Yeah.
Just for people that want to get a political bias, it's every administration. So,
yeah. No, your value card at your favorite grocery store.
Oh, totally. Totes.
That came out, what, early 90s?
Yeah.
Right about the time technology started becoming, when companies started realizing that they can use data to make money.
Think about that. Think about your health insurance company getting the information for what you shop for. Like, I saw that you ate steaks 3 times last week. Well, health insurance premiums are going to go up.
You have no fruit purchases for the last 3 years on your value card.
And the one 3 years ago you returned, so I'm pretty sure it was an accident. And
it was a pumpkin, so I doubt you ate that.
And again, a bit of a horror story, but it logically makes sense. There's no reason as the ability of these companies to aggregate data and get more and more data, because data is money. Data will make them more money. They will invest in getting more data and algorithms to, and use algorithms to be able to, again, derive a profile on you. And again, it's a bit scary, which kind of makes sense because it's almost Halloween. It's something to be, again, mindful of. But as Cody said, information, because data is so important, information itself is also important. And in the world we live in, you kind of have to be informed, or try to be informed as best you can.
Yeah.
And forgive yourself if you make a mistake, because
Yep.
they have a lot more money than you do, and they're going to try real hard. They have ways of getting to you.
Oh, yeah. Well, so on the lighter side of this, there is a coffee shop and I wish I could remember where it is, that you go there and you do not pay with cash or card. You go there and it asks you to verify information. You can buy your coffee with verifying your personal information or adding additional information on preferences, choices,
God,
marketing.
At some point, like, you got to be out of data. It's like, I can't give you anything more.
Well, data
I just
always
want a coffee.
changes. You are not the same person with the same interests that you were 2 years ago. So stale
point.
data.
Screw 2 years ago, earlier this summer.
Oh God. Yep.
I'm a different
I
person.
thought you were gonna say
than
before COVID.
what I was on
Like-
in March, early March 2020. So
Like, okay, you as a
exactly.
user, how much would you have given to know what was going to happen to Zoom or Tesla this year? Like, how much money would
Given
you
all
have
my
given
personal data at that point.
to have that information, that data of what is happening? I mean, this is basically the same
Oh, yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah. Would
Yeah.
you guys get a brain, like, computer augmentation, knowing what you know about privacy and data?
Okay. When I was a kid, and even up to probably mid-20s, so only in the last, 10 years, has my thought process changed. When I was a kid, and before I was, let's say 24, I wanted one so badly. Just direct brain bud, tap me into everything, be able to, do full submersion, VR, dive games, have information at an instant recall of names and places and faces because I suck at names. Now? Fuck no. Not a chance in hell.
I don't know. I think
Sponsored by
in
Facebook.
some, as weird as this is, on some level, I think a true brain link would. It's gonna sound kind of weird. I think it would get rid of the human failure of encryption and stuff. I think it would in some form. It depends on what type of link.
Because you'd still.
I guess it
You'd
depends.
have
Is it
to
a full?
constantly update the thing. Also, every single
At some point,
I
there'll be
can
enough
guarantee-
power for that to happen.
I can guarantee you that government diplomats would not use that.
Well, no.
I recommend, as a side too, I recommend reading the book Permanent Record by a certain individual that is currently now has permanent residency in Russia. But
Who also might
it
be
would,
getting
it would be the opposite of heat outside.
and whatever the opposite of Eric is. Eric? I don't. Charles? I don't know.
Edward.
Well, so the longer version of
Fuck.
Ed.
Yeah. Whoops.
Ed heat outside. Ed melts outside.
Oh man, we got off. I forget where we were now. But I think it's a good place to wrap this up. So,
No. We need your thoughts on the brain bud.
okay,
Real quick.
Cody, you cannot escape this.
for the love of
None
God,
of
I will
us
escape
can.
that. Yeah, and that's my answer is no. Whatever I have technologically needs to detach from my person without causing me harm, and I need to be able to detach it myself from my person. I do not want anything that requires medical assistance that I cannot do myself. That is my answer to it. I'm somewhere in between, some things somewhat paranoid, some things not at all, and yeah. So I wouldn't.
Kind
just-
of a.
I
Is it a
see
dystopian?
enough.
Go ahead.
I see enough of what hackers are able to do with Internet of Things devices.
Oh, because those things aren't secure at all.
Well, yeah,
Your smart fridge
but
has no encryption. Your Ring doorbell, like the thing that you see outside with, like that's one of the worst offenders there is.
well, even medical devices.
Oh,
Like, I mean, there is a huge market.
And
Now,
HIPAA
granted, this is a
violation,
good
essentially.
kind of hacking,
White hat.
where people are getting people who have type 1 diabetes who have to wear an actual insulin pump are actually buying older models of insulin pumps and hacking them and homebrewing their own software so that they can actually basically enhance their own ability to function by saying, hey, rather than waiting until my blood sugar gets up here to inject insulin, inject down here. Because they can look through and see, with the foods they eat, with how everything has been. They're basically hacking
Data.
themselves by hacking this this insulin pump. And there's been a lot of really interesting stories kind of coming out of that space. And the company who makes those, I think it's Medtronic, is absolutely furious
Fuck them.
that these people are buying these older devices to hack to do this.
Fuck that company.
This is
Don't even
like
care.
the
Oh, yeah.
Fuck 'em.
John Deere with the
Oh, yeah.
farmers running Russian firmware on it, or the ventilators. Earlier this year, what was it? It was something else that could be used as a ventilator, but the company was like, no. And then somebody's like, oh yeah, if you just basically reflash the firmware on it, you could it'll work perfectly as a ventilator.
Well, and then there was another one where they specifically said that you could not use any 3D printed parts with this ventilator. And the replacement part, it was like a T-piece or something just stupid. The replacement part that is part of the required monthly or annual maintenance or something was thousands of dollars for this little plastic
Welcome
fucking
to medical
piece.
care in the United States, where we negotiate nothing.
Yeah. And so this guy made a 3D printed model for his local small hospital and got sued by the major company. And thankfully, because we were in a pandemic, the judge was basically like, yeah, you
Fuck that company
can
too.
suck it, corporation.
Fuck corporations. Fuck them. If you can help your fellow man, do it. Screw it. We need a more moral world. That's my political stance.
Be careful about that word. Depends on whose morals.
Should you have? That's a need.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But that again, fine. If you can
Be
help
good
somebody,
to one another.
There you go. Don't be assholes.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be an asshole. Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
.com.net.
The one commandment.
Fuck you.
That's all I need. Don't be a dick.
Yep.
Did John ever register any of those?
I think he got
I think
sad
at one
about
point
it.
he did.
He had don'tbeadick.org, and I think he was pissed
Okay.
off because he thought he was the first person who came up with that, and he was like, Will Wheaton!
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Okay.
Yeah. But now
Before
I
my
gotta
time.
check and see if don'tbeadick.org is actually doing anything. If it's not doing anything, I want to see if the who is information is still him. So that's the note that I think we should leave this on is don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Use VPNs. Understand that your data is not private if you put it on anything with
A monitor.
electrons.
Yep.
And Brandon's in the bathroom.
electrons. Just
Yep. DuckDuckGo. Also, yeah, DuckDuckGo.
Be informed.
DuckDuckGo, and look into Cloudflare DNS 1.1.1.1. I use it. It's fast, and they don't keep logs.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
So yeah, be good to each other.
have a wonderful Halloween.
Are we not going to do our pluggables,
Yes.
people?
Oh, well, fine.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
I guess
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
plug in.
Pluggables. TheTechPirate.net.
Oh, and his head disappears. Drac went
Wait,
headless
has
for the
Brandon
tech
always
pirate.
been the tech pirate?
Always.
Nice.
Since I could sit on a chair by myself and bang things on a Commodore 64 keyboard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you did.
So, I am Brandon Vader, also known as Dracanus, also known as the Tech Pirate. Yeah, you can find me on thetechpirate.net, YouTube as The Tech Pirate, and Twitter at The Tech Pirate. I think it's actually TTP_net, but I'm the only Tech Pirate on Twitter so far.
Only one worth following.
And yeah, I need to do more. I keep saying that every time I say that, and then I don't.
It's on the internet, remember?
Yeah, we always all of us feel really bad about this. It's like
I
is it
don't.
gonna-
I'm contributing
well,
shit all
okay,
the
he does a
time.
lot.
Oh yeah,
And
Colton is doing fantastic.
so Colton, where can we find you in your fantasticness?
I am Colton Roper, also known as Seeker, also known as Seeker4761. Screw that 10-year-old boy who didn't like numbers and names. I'm a contributor
Or is
to I am a contributor to The Tech Pirate. I said I'm trying to get a new article out every Tuesday, and so far it's been pretty good. So hopefully that keeps up. I'm also on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all under the gamer tag Seeker4761. And yeah. Cody, what about you?
You can find me here also on YouTube as Striving to Fail. I think, maybe, yes. Okay,
We'll never know.
I'm waiting for your reactions. So, yep, I'm pretty sure that's it. So you'll find me there or you won't. Twitch, I actually did get to figure out how to stream my drone footage directly from my goggle. So as Psycho Nitrous on Twitch, except for you can see a lot of static for when I'm switching batteries and stuff. That's the only bad thing about that.
Edit it and put it on YouTube. Download it from Twitch.
Yep.
Put
And
some content on that YouTube site.
Yeah, I got a microphone for my VTX too, and my GoPro will actually be here Tuesday or Monday. Actually, it's in Anchorage. It'll be here on Monday, so
nice.
I'll have better footage of that. So yeah.
Very nice.
Oh, you
Play
can
us
also,
off, Brandon.
You can also find me on, what's the website? My Flight Radar, just as an odd one, as Roaming League. Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for stopping by, and we'll see you on the next one.
I don't know what music this is.
I don't know. It's been stuck in my head most of the episode, though.